But before we get today's guest on, it's time for a quick shout out to the sponsors of Tech Talks Daily. And in today's digital age where data breaches are all too common, securing sensitive information has never been more critical, right? Well, enter Kiteworks, a pinnacle of managed file transfer security, or MFT security. So with its FedRAMP moderate authorization, a prestigious certification that they've held since 2017 by the Department of Defense, Kiteworks stand as a bastion of security in a sea of uncertainty. So step into the future of secure file transfer with Kiteworks by visiting kiteworks.com today to see why it's hailed as the most secure MFT on the market. So once again, kiteworks.com. And now, let's get today's guest on. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Hastings here in the UK, where Heather's waiting to share her story. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. So I'm Heather Black, CEO of Supermums. I launched Supermums 7 years ago to help bring more women into the tech sector, to educate them about what the career opportunities are. And now I spend most of my time taking part in speaker events, podcasts, talking to people and helping them change their life. And that's what I really love about my job, is that people who've upskilled, trained, relaunched their career to have something that's well paid and flexible. A lot of the feedback is, you've changed my life and thank you. And that's a really lovely job to have, right? So that's what I do now.
I absolutely love that. We're approaching 3,000 interviews on here. And one thing that I've said on every single episode is technology works best when it brings people together. And you're the epitome of that with the work that you're doing here. Another thing that I always ask every guest is their origin story. There's always a backstory of what put you on this path. So Heather, can you share with me your story behind the inception of Supermums, and also maybe a few personal experience that could have influenced its creation? There's got to be a backstory, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, isn't it? The journey you go on and where things pivot and what comes into your life and how you end up where you are today. So there's definitely a story here. So I'll go back a few years, 20 odd years. So 20 years, I started my first business. It was non-profit, and I'd sort of qualified from university, and I was focused very much on helping people into employment and starting businesses. So as you can see, that resonates quite clearly with Supermums. But I did a lot of research work for government, actually looking at what strategies worked to get people into employment and entrepreneurship, and what worked and what didn't work, because they were investing a lot of money in that. And then 20 years ago, I actually launched my own business that would help 18 to 30-year-olds set up businesses and get jobs within small companies, if you like. And through that journey of running that business, it grew very quickly, because we won a lot of government funding to help young professionals get into jobs and start businesses. And I started using a CRM called Salesforce, and Salesforce became our living, beating heart of the organization. It helped us with our marketing, our data and compliance, impact measurement, to see, what we were doing with the beneficiaries and where they were going to, and helping us track all our funding and our income. And it became like I don't know how businesses really survive without one, quite frankly. It's your kind of collection of all your customer data and everything that you're doing with customers, and all your emails go through that. And so it's your Bible, really, and say, living, beating heart of the organization. And it's quite instrumental to our growth as an organization. So we went from 100K to 1.3 million in a year, went from 4 staff to 40 staff. And so obviously having this CRM was quite, one, helped us secure more funding, but two, helped us manage the growth. And I ran that organisation for 7 years, up to the point that Conservative came into government in the UK, and a lot of the funding that I had used and relied on with the Labour government dried up and shifted. And so it was much more harder for me to run that organisation. So I had that point where I was just about to get married and have a family, and I kind of lost my job and my company, really, because we didn't really have the funding. And I'm like, oh God, what am I going to do? So I had this whole pivot of like, I need to find something else, because there wasn't really the opportunity to carry on with the business. So I had to relook at what I could do. Obviously, I sort of really enjoyed working with Salesforce as a system in the organization. And I really had a passion to learn more about what the job opportunities were, because I didn't know, never had background in tech. And so I started speaking to people in the industry, started doing some more research, and realized that actually I didn't need tech skills. Like, it wasn't like I didn't need a background in coding. And actually, because my background was business coaching at that point and running a business, actually a lot of those skills were transferable over into the Salesforce roles. So I can talk more about that, but within Salesforce roles, there's 6 different job roles that you can do. And only one of them requires you to sort of be a coder, if you like. The rest are project managers, business analysts, Salesforce administrator, sales roles. There's a whole mix there. And I realized I had a lot of transferable skills. And so I decided to upskill, and I did retrain myself. And I pivoted to become a Salesforce consultant for nonprofits. And I would go into other nonprofit organizations and help them implement Salesforce to improve their fundraising, their volunteer management, their delivery management. And what happened on that journey is the first sort of 2 or 3 years, I operated as a self-employed freelance consultant. I was on £400 day rates, working 3 days a week with my newborn, working completely remotely with clients. And I was like, actually, I'm earning more than I was before. Like, other women should know about this. This is a really great job opportunity for other women. And that was coupled with the fact that I then started growing my consultancy, because I did get more work than I could manage, and I could turn it away, but my entrepreneurial spirit was kicking in. And so I grew a Salesforce consultancy to 20 people, and we worked with about 350 nonprofits on 700 projects during the time that I was running the consultancy. But hiring talent was really hard, right? So I was like having to think, so I started Supermums 7 years ago with a view to bringing more people into this space, because there was a massive shortage of talent. I felt other women should know about this career opportunity, because it allowed you to retain a career and share a wealth of experience in the role, but you could still work flexibly, right? And you could still have best of both worlds. But I felt there was such a shortage of talent that actually it helped me hire and grow my own consultancy, because there was amazing talent went through the Supermums program with us. We upskilled them. They would go out into the ecosystem to find jobs, and some of them came to work for me as part of the consultancy. So that's my journey, really, of where we are now. And I've got I feel like a proud parent. Like, we've had 1,300 people go through our program globally, and they're all out there carving their new career paths, which is great.
Wow, what an incredible story. It reminds me of the old Steve Jobs quote: you can't join up the dots looking forwards. It's only when you look back and you see how all those dots actually form this path that you're on now. And I love what you've done here and how you took your experience with Salesforce and created Supermums. I've got to ask that, how do you leverage Salesforce to empower mothers looking to transition into the tech sector? Because I suspect we will have a lot of mums of all ages listening to the show and at various stage in their parental journey, and maybe they want to get back into the workplace or considering moving into the world of tech. Maybe their previous career is at risk of automation or in danger, and they want to pivot into the tech career. So can you tell me a little bit more about how you do that to empower these mothers?
Yeah, so I created a quiz which allows parents to go through and look at their parenting attributes and to figure out which Salesforce job would be right for them. And I do believe on the back of that quiz, there is a job for everybody, whether you want it or not. And so it's interesting because I talk a lot about those transferable attributes and skills and experience. So with the parenting skills attributes quiz, if you're the empathetic parent, like you're the one that's always a counselor, and it might be not with kids, it might be with your friends as well, and you're the listening ear and you're the problem solver. I say that typically the job role for you is being a business analyst, because as a business analyst, you go into an organization, you sit with a team, you listen to all their pain points, you look at their processes and you give them solutions. And then you hand it over to somebody else to build, right, and fix. But it's that empathetic listener. The other kind of attributes that you might have is that you are the delegator, the organizer, you like a spreadsheet and you're the budget planner. So you typically, I say that you could be the project manager on a project. So maybe project management is actually where you're aligned to, because that's your natural skill set, really. If you are the person that is the fixer, you'll just go out and fix things, or you're the early adopter and that you'll learn things and then teach other people. If you're quite tidy and you like everything tidy and organized in that way and you sort everything out, you could be the Salesforce administrator. With a Salesforce administrator, that's where you're starting to build systems with clicks, not code. Don't need code, but you like organizing things. You like keeping data tidy. You like helping users understand the system and organize them, but you'll get your hands dirty and sort of lean in there. And if you're a combination of those skills and you like actually doing all of those aspects, I sort of recommend the Salesforce consultant hat, because as a Salesforce consultant, you can actually be all three of those things if you want to be. So it means you're not necessarily just sliding into one of them. And if you are the parent that's quite the influencer and negotiator, whether with your kids, I mean, arguably, I think we all are to some degree, but if that sort of aligns with you naturally, or you're always selling gadgets and things to your friends, you're like, oh, we should get this because it's amazing. I also sort of steer them towards the customer success and account executive roles where you're selling technology. And I've worn all these hats on my journey. I've worn all these hats, and actually they've suited me at different points in my life, depending if I'm breastfeeding or if I'm wanting to go out more or whatever. I've kind of taken these different roles in the consultancy as I've needed to, and it's actually fitted with me. So you don't have to come in and be one thing. You can actually develop a career and sort of try all those different areas if you want to over time. But I sort of say to people, in terms of transferable skills, it's very much if you love stakeholder communication, you've got an element of, it depends on which job role you go into, but there's a lot of transferable skills from business. And that's why people like to hire mature talent rather than maybe necessarily graduates in this situation, because you're in this type of role, you are steering and shaping business processes and new systems. There has to be that level of confidence and leadership with that, because you've got to bring people on a journey with you. You've got to engage and empower them to learn new technology, which they might be scared of. They might be scared of the change. They don't know what they're doing. So naturally, you need to be that kind of person that can bring people on a journey with you. You've got great communication skills, and effectively it can be from any industry, because Salesforce is the number one CRM system. It's used in any industry, and employers like to hire people who've got an industry background because they can speak the lingo, they know the KPIs, they know how things typically work in the industry that they might have had years of experience in. So quite often employers aren't looking necessarily to have an expert in Salesforce. What they're wanting is somebody who's got 10 years. Like for me, I had experience in non-profit, so I was able to go and speak the lingo of non-profits. So we sort of always try and say to the mums that we're working with, sell your industry experience, sell your transferable skills, and sell your attributes, because that's what you're selling in for the new jobs.
Incredibly cool. And so much I love about what you're doing here. And listening to you talk, it's easy for me to see and understand how you've managed to scale this business on a global level. But of course, none of it would have been very easy. So if I was to ask you to look back and some of those sleepless nights, what challenges did you face in scaling Supermums to a global level, and how did you overcome them? You're probably getting flashbacks as I say that out loud now, but is there anything you can share around them?
We inevitably have this bit of a situation where we're always empowering people to flourish in their careers. So one of the things is we will hire like amazing talent, but then they'll want to go off and do things. So you've always got the talent turnover. And obviously that's what I talk about, right? It's like retaining team members sometimes. We've had people work for us for years, don't get me wrong, and obviously moved roles, but we've hired quite a lot of Supermums to actually come to work for Supermums, which is nice. We actually got that team. But yes, it's one of the biggest challenges about growing a business is having the team that's going to grow with you. And obviously people will naturally step out of that and step in. And so I think that's, it's a challenge for any business. I don't think it's dissimilar, but it's, retaining, acquiring the right team to grow. We accidentally went global with this business. And it's funny with my last one, it's like with my last business, I really wanted to go global, but I didn't know how to do it. Whereas because with this business, it was all virtual. And so people just joined from all over the world because it was global. So we literally had people from over 10 different countries join, more than that, I would say, in terms of the nationalities of people doing the courses. But we launched our first USA time zone course in 2009. Then obviously we had the pandemic, so that was interesting. But with the pandemic, it brought more people to us than actually reduction, because people were on furlough and needing to pivot. So we've launched in a new country. We've obviously had to build our brand awareness there, build confidence with that market. As I was mentioning in our chat earlier, like 50% of our audience on our website is from the USA. Effectively, we've got a third of our trainees are from the USA. So we've gone through those steps of launching in a new country, I tend to sometimes do podcasts late at night and user group speaker sessions. So, I can be working at 10 at night doing speaker sessions and things like that to engage with that audience. So that's the other thing with global domination is once you're there, you then have to make it work. So it's sort of managing the time zones with people and sort of supporting that, which we do across the team. It's fine, but it just caveats onto some of flexing your time around that. And I think the thing is we've grown organically to date, and I subsidised it initially with the consultancy, and then we sort of pivoted with sponsorship. So it's really growing a business as well and making sure that you're investing in growth, that you've got enough to support you. I think that's, again, a challenge of any business owner. I don't think I've had anything that's unique particularly. And we're just going through a cycle now to secure investment for our next stage of growth, because we've shown continued growth on growth. We've done over 4.5 million in turnover collectively as an organisation. We've worked with 300 companies who've hired talent from us. So we're always wanting other companies to come and work with us and hire talent, because we've got emerging and experienced talent. And so you've always got things to be doing, things to be growing. You always sort of, for me, I'm driven by the impact we make. As where I started this call, it's not financial. Obviously, you need to make it wash its face and make it work, and to have a scalable organisation. But we could have, with more investment, we could obviously achieve so much more and be helping so many more people. And that's always my mission, is to keep pushing it to that next level.
And I love the fact that we'll have people listening all over the world, and many business leaders wanting to crack America or go global. And you said there that you've almost done it by accident. It wasn't by design from the very beginning. And I suspect you are being slightly modest there. There's a lot of hard work gone into making this a global business. But one of the things that also attracted me to what you've created here, why I invited you on here, is you're also contributing to reducing the gender pay gap and increasing diversity in the tech industry. Two huge topics and talking points right now. But can you tell me a little bit more about how you're doing this?
Absolutely. I mean, people don't understand what job roles are in the tech sector. And yes, we can continue to share stats that show the number of women in these roles. There isn't enough women in the tech sector generally. The proportionate levels are a lot lower than males. And unless we go out and educate this audience, women in general, in different ways, we're not going to attract more into it, quite frankly. And there's a lot of STEM initiatives at school now, which is fantastic. It's great to be hitting schools and graduates with more information about these roles to bring people in. It's also equally important to have lots of role models. So we encourage our alumni to do case studies with us, to share their experience, to build trust and awareness. And a lot of our time is spent providing information, advice, like the quiz, for example. We have a team members that will do free career consultations with people. And they've got to go on this emotional journey and quite often convince their partner or whoever's going to give them some money to retrain that, yes, they should be doing this. So it is, there's not with battle, but we haven't seen a significant change really for years unless individuals like myself who are influencers are actively out there campaigning, want for a better word, raising awareness every day. We aren't going to shift that dial. So I think we've worked with some companies who've sponsored us that see the importance of this, because all these companies that are out there saying, yes, we want to improve the diversity of our tech base and more widely. The thing is the needle won't change unless we do more educational work and outreach. So I've been very thankful to companies that have sponsored our marketing activities and our outreach work, because that's the only way that we can give them more talent at the end of the day. So that's helped us on our journey too, for sure.
And I think we're all at a moment in time where diversity of thought is so important to solving complex problems in the tech industry and in business in general. And education, as you said, is a huge part of that. So is there anything that you can share around how you're addressing that digital skills gap and in doing so, the kind of results that you're seeing so far?
Yeah, so I'll give an example of the program we designed. As I said, my background was in researching programs to support employability. So I had a very good understanding about actually what did work to get somebody from A to B. And with that, we know it's not just delivering a technical training course for 5 days and saying, all right, off you go. You can go and do this job now. It doesn't work. So what we did with our program, we broke the mold, because traditionally Salesforce only did a 5-day course that was classroom based and was £3,500. And that was the only way you could train up to become a Salesforce professional when we started Supermums. And so what I did was broke down that program of the 5-day training into 3-hour training sessions once a week over 3 months. But they do, the trainees come on the program, they do 3 hours of learning what we call a competency, like learning a specific thing. And then we'll set them practice to go in and practice that and build out a system and do some trailheads. And so they actually do 16 hours of study on that one competency in a week and practice it 3 times, if you like, over and over again to really understand it. And we pair everybody with a one-to-one mentor. So the mentor meets with that person every single week for 1 to 2 hours to check that they've got the competency right, support them if they haven't, and they complete a homework record. So it's very handheld in that way. And so for the 3 months, they're completing a competency, practicing it over and over again, having somebody verify and support them, and completing a homework record. And when they've got to the end of the 3 months, we will have seen that they've completed the program, because that also provides motivation and accountability and everything else that they need and why they choose to learn with us, because otherwise they're not self-motivated and they might not get to the end of it. And they're on this program with a group of other women and men. We have men on the program too, and they support each other via a peer group. So there's a lot of peer motivation and support as well. So if somebody is stuck, they help each other, and they form that new friendship group because they're all launching their new career together. So it's been lovely seeing like all these friendship groups like be created over the years. And so at the end of the 3 months, they've finished all their training, they've finished their homework, they get their certification. So they'll do their certification at that point and study for it. And then we place them in a non-profit organization alongside somebody who's an experienced Salesforce professional to do what we call a pro bono placement. And it's a 48-hour placement where they get hands-on real life experience helping a non-profit with their Salesforce system. And that's really helped non-profit get bits of work done that they weren't able to do themselves, but equally it's helped that person get work experience. And then alongside that, just to add the other layer, we do career coaching and support. So we do fortnightly career coaching, and we have our recruitment arm that then provides support to help them into getting the job opportunities. So we've got a fully rounded sort of A to Z back to work program that provides all the pillars of support you would need to give them the confidence, the skills, to relaunch successfully. And it's all virtual as well.
And another question I've got to ask is how Supermums aligns with and supports the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, particularly in terms of quality education and gender equality. And the reason I asked that is before you came on the podcast, I was doing a little research about it, and I know this is something you're very passionate about, but is that something you can expand on too?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, when we're running the organisation, we obviously want to align to certain goals and what they're doing. And so there's 4 distinct, as you mentioned them there, the different sustainability goals around reducing inequality. So we want to bring more women into the sector. I'm really passionate about making sure that we accelerate the careers of the women when they're in the sector. So I've just done a whole series of blogs actually around career progression and how and what that would look like for you in your different job roles, and provided like the step-by-step career progression plan, because I've seen and heard sort of situations where women are like, well, I'm really grateful I've got a part-time job, so I feel uncomfortable asking for a pay rise or asking for progression because I feel very fortunate. I'm like, no. This is the progression plan. And when I have these conversations with women, and some of them have been alumni for 4 years, right? I'm like, what is it that I need to provide them with to help them in this role? So as I mentioned, I wrote these blogs around career progression, what the first 2 years would look like, what your different competencies could be as you grow and develop, what the salary range would be. So they could take that to their employer and say, look, this is a career progression plan that I'd really like to be on. Like, is this possible here? If not, it might be that in 2 years I might be looking at something else realistically, because this is where I want to go to, and to give them the tools to have that conversation. So when we talk about gender and pay equality, which is one of the goals as well, we've got to equip people with the knowledge to understand, well, where should I be? What should I be being paid for what it is I'm doing? And I'm a big advocate of giving people the tools and knowledge to know what they're worth and to know, where they can be aiming for. So we do a lot of that capacity building with our alumni beyond the course as well to hit all of those things. And we made the course virtual, as I said, and we rather than a 5-day in-person course, we made it a virtual course over a series of months to make it more accessible to people as well, which aligns with one of the goals around education. To break down participation in education, we wanted to create something we felt was more flexible for women. So we have a lot of women who have been stay-at-home parents for quite a while, and obviously this is a step back into work. We have women that are on maternity leave that don't feel they can go back to their current job. And we have people that are in full-time employment actually, but are fitting this around their full-time job or part-time job in some cases to get something more well paid and more flexible than the job that they're in. So we've tried to hit all those different agendas through how we deliver.
And you will have the ear of women listening all over the world to our conversation today. So what would you say are the unique challenges and equally opportunities that you see for women that are thinking about returning to work to the tech sector post-pandemic, or maybe pivoting to the tech sector? Because we hear a lot about the challenges, but there's a lot of opportunities too, right?
I think research your options and dive in, and that's why we provide such an educational page. So we have a page on our website at supermums.org, which is a page called What is a Salesforce Career? And we explain all about the career. You can download a free career guide. You can book in a call with one of our team. And we just really support this and encourage it because we want people to make an informed decision. And it's really important to do as much research as you can around different career roles and to really find out if it's something that's right for you, because otherwise people will never move forward. You're always stuck with the, I don't know if it's right. So we encourage just people to dive in and find out as much, be eager and keen. And then if it's not for you, that's absolutely fine. And we're not Supermums at all pushy. Like, we want it to be the right choice for you because that's what makes you successful. So I think it's the case of if the word tech is against it, don't think I have to have a coding background. Actually be open to the wider range of roles in the tech sector. The reality that there's this huge statistics out there at the moment that show that 50% of jobs and skills are going to be changing. And I think if you're coming back to the workplace or you're looking at what jobs next, is you want to be upskilling in those skills that are in demand and that people are needing. And the reality is that you can be outdated so quickly these days if you're not keeping pace with things. So there is condition, maybe is a wrong word. We do say to people that if you're coming into the sector, you have to enjoy lifelong learning, because you're always going to be learning new things and solving problems and being excited about new technology. That has to be there. There has to be that appetite for that, because that's the way that the sector's going. But that's where the new job opportunities are, for sure.
Love that. And looking forward on your own journey of continuous learning and growth, what would you say your aspirations are for Supermums, and how do you envision its role in helping shape the future of work in the Salesforce ecosystem?
Well, with Supermums, because we've had trainees join us from all over the world, and we have amazing case studies from all over the world. I'm going on this journey at the moment to secure investment to really help us scale up and actually make more of a footprint in these other countries, because we just touched the surface of people that find out about us through word of mouth, but actually we could do a lot more in different countries with additional budget resources that are more localized in those areas. So we're just wanting to spread the magic a little bit further and help more people in these respective countries. Salesforce is a global product. It's used in all these countries. There's some markets like South Africa and Dubai that are brand new almost to Salesforce focus, and a lot of resources is going in there and they need the talent. And so we want to follow where they're going and sort of be upskilling people to service the new clients that are coming online in those countries. So there's a lot of opportunity there for us. And I spend most of my time now sort of teaching. I teach people on the consultancy skills course, and I love that as part of my week. I've written the books. So I wrote a book because it was an Amazon bestseller called Become a Super Salesforce Consultant. So that went live in November. So I love to educate people. We've sold 500 books around the world. And for me, that's just equipping people with all the knowledge they need to be a super Salesforce consultant. It's like, right, just read the book. It's all there. They might need to do some additional training, obviously, but it's kind of the footprint of what they need to do. And so we've got 2 more books planned for this year and next as well. So lots to do.
Awesome. Well, I'm hoping that your insights will have inspired women listening all over the world. And I would urge anybody listening, wherever they are located, wherever they are listening, you do serve a global audience. I do urge them to get in contact with you. But you've shared your insights. I want to ask you to leave one final piece of magic with everyone listening. We have a Spotify playlist where I ask my guests to add a song that means something to them, or maybe it's just a guilty pleasure. Whatever it is, we'll add it to the Spotify playlist. Or alternatively, a book that means something to you, or you'd recommend that we can add to our Amazon wish list. I don't mind which it is, but what would you like to leave everyone listening with and why?
I think the book that inspired me the most in my early 20s, which kind of just made me think that anything is possible, it was a book called The Art of Possibility by Ben Zander. And he's an incredible speaker. But it left such a footprint on me that it made me think actually anything is possible. If you need something to boost your confidence and self-esteem and give you the mojo to do it, and that's the book that I'd recommend.
Awesome. And if anyone listening wanting to find out more about your book, about the quiz we mentioned, about all the work you're doing at Supermums, how they can get involved, or maybe they just want to ask you or your team a question, where would you like to point everyone listening?
So you can visit our website at www.supermum.org, which has all the resources and information on there, but we can also do a quick link to the page, What is a Salesforce Career, as well.
Awesome. Well, I get all those links added so people can find you nice and easily and get to where they want to be to maybe go on that journey with you. And as I said at the very beginning of this episode, I always say technology works best when it brings people together, but there's so much of what you're doing here I love about how you're leveraging technology to reduce the gender pay gap, support women returning to the workplace, increasing the diversity of women in tech, the financial resilience of families, and ultimately addressing that digital skills gap too. So much great work. I'd love to stay in touch with you and see how your story evolves. But more than anything, thanks for sharing your story today.
Thanks, Neil, for having me. And thanks for listening, everyone.
So as we wrap up today's inspiring conversation with Heather Black of Supermums, I think it's clear that the journey towards gender equality, diversity in tech, and bridging this digital skills gap is not just a vision, but a tangible reality being shaped by incentives like Supermums. And I love how their work supports the critical UN Sustainable Development Goals, including quality education, gender equality, decent work and economic growth, and reduced inequalities. And for me, this episode is testament to how technology and a driven community can create pathways that empower underrepresented groups, offering them a chance at flexible, well-paid careers in the tech industry. So please, for anyone listening wanting to find out more about Supermums, wherever you're listening, join their mission or explore how you can transition into the tech sector by visiting supermums.org. Heather and her team are not just creating a ripple in the tech world, they're orchestrating a wave of change for future generations. And as we sign off, I encourage you to think about the role that technology might play in your life, how it might be a force for good in the lives of others, and also what steps we can all take to support initiatives like Supermums. As always, share your thoughts with me by emailing me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, just at Neil C. Hughes. Let's keep this conversation going. But that's it for today. So until next time, thank you for listening. And to each and every one of you listening, wherever you are, keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible with technology.